Even ESPN's starting to come around on Bama, and that says a whole lot. They spent months saying the Saban era was done, called DeBoer a fill-in, pointed at last year's mistakes like proof that Alabama had lost its edge, and those so-called experts, laughing, joking, acting like the Tide was just another team. But now, one of the coldest straight-shooting analysts on ESPN went live and tore the script to pieces. He said he believes. He said Bama's a legit contender, and he laid it all out. Why year 2 under DeBoer could be the leap everybody's not ready for. This ain't just hope. It ain't just pride. It's hard work, quiet grinding, and rivals feeling the pressure. And that's what we're talking about in today's episode of Roll Tide Press. Go ahead and drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and share this with somebody who bleeds crimson and white. Last year, every time Bama slipped, the media celebrated. Commentators all over saying the dynasty was done. They were laughing at Kalen DeBoer before the man even had his first spring camp. Heck, folks on ESPN were betting Bama wouldn't even make it past October. Truth is, they wanted it to be over. They wanted to bury the Tide. Wanted to say, it's done. Let's move on. But here's what they didn't see coming. Alabama didn't talk. Alabama went to work. While all the so-called experts were busy hyping up LSU, Georgia, and even Oklahoma, that Bama locker room shut the doors and lit a fire inside. Those boys trained like they were mad. Because they were. And now, the bills come due. This week, live on air with the mic hot and rolling, one of the coldest straight-shooting analysts at ESPN looked dead into the camera and said, "I'm buying. Alabama is a legit national championship contender." That wasn't just analysis. That was a confession. A confession that they were wrong. A confession that Alabama didn't just come back, Alabama never left. Now listen close. 'Cause what you're about to hear ain't from no fanboy, ain't from no ex-player, and sure as heck ain't from some TikTok loudmouth. This came live on air, inside an ESPN studio, straight from one of the coldest, sharpest analysts on national TV. And if even he is saying this, you know the tide's turning.
Better understanding of the philosophy adjustments that they had to endure last year, and should be well equipped to move into this season feeling quite good. Let's talk about some positions of strength before we get to the question marks. Okay, running back, I think, has a chance to be a position of strength. Jam Miller has already shown that he can be a go-to guy. Richard Young is a guy that's going to get downhill, run extremely hard. Did get a little banged up last year, but expect him to be fully recovered. And Daniel Hill, those three guys there in the backfield can all be really good situationally depending on what the offense needs. I think wide receiver has a chance to be much better than it was a year ago. If you look at last year, it was Ryan Williams and a bunch of guys that kind of played at times a little out of position. Now they have very obvious roles and responsibilities. The addition of Isaiah Horton from Miami is going to give you that prototypical X wide receiver. It's going to be a possession guy, big body guy in the red zone that you throw it in his direction, and he's going to go up and win those contested 50-50 balls. You have Ryan Williams. He now can move to a more traditional spot where he can play in the slot, but he can also play at the outside wide receiver on the strong side. He's going to be able to take the top off the defense just like he did last year. And then Jeremy Bernard, another year in development, another year of anticipating him kind of living in the slot and being a great football player for them. He was good last year, but now I think just another year of becoming a go-to guy, he's going to be able to take a significant step forward. I also think the offensive line has a chance to be a position of strength. You bring back arguably the best center in college football in Parker Brailsford. You got a great left tackle in Caden Proctor. You have a great right guard in Jaden Roberts. Now there's competition at the left guard spot. There's competition at the right tackle spot, but they feel like their depth is better this year than it was a year ago. And then on the defensive side, they should be rock solid. Now they're a little thin in a few spots. They don't have as many bodies as they once did. Talking back in 2016, 2018, the depth of those rosters when they go 8, 9, 10 deep along the defensive line, those days are long gone. But their starting 11 should be very, very good, headlined by the linebackers, Justin Jefferson, who's got great speed, and Deontay Lawson, who has legitimate All-American capability, assuming he can stay healthy. They have to stay healthy, but they should feel pretty good about what they have. And then last year, if you think back, we were having this conversation about youth in the secondary. They at times had to rely on 3 true freshmen on the field at a time in the secondary. That is no more. All those guys that played a bunch early on, they have now blossomed into year 2 players, and we should expect a pretty big jump collectively from that group across the board. They're healthier, they should be in a better spot, and they'll have a better understanding of what Cam Womack wants to do from a defensive coverage and disguise standpoint. Let's get to the question marks. We'll move on to another national championship contender. Remember, this is tier 1, so these teams can all win the national championship and go into the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, Kalen DeBoer, year number 2. And if you look back at his tenure at Fresno, you look back at his tenure at Washington, the team takes a pretty significant jump from year number 1 to year number 2. Now, last year, people will point to the shortcomings and the inconsistencies. I don't anticipate that level of inconsistency this year. I think that last year, the highs were really, really high. I think back to the first half against Georgia, the whole game against LSU. But you also remember back to some of the lows. The Oklahoma performance was extremely disappointing. Vanderbilt, especially on the defensive side, very, very disappointing. So you look kind of over the course of all of last year, and there were moments where you just didn't get consistent output from both sides of the ball. Kalen DeBoer, though, in his press conference at SEC last year, addressed those things head on. He said, we've got to be better on third down. We got to be better on the road. We got to do a better job of managing situations. We got to be better in the red zone offensively. All the things that they came up short with last year, they are making that a huge priority this offseason. And I feel like Kalen DeBoer and the addition of Ryan Grubb, his new offensive coordinator, who's been with them for 13 years at the college level, dating all the way back to his time at Sioux Falls, that brain trust offensively should be in great shape. And then year 2, Kane Womack calling the defensive shots. Got to think that group from an identity standpoint. You look at Bama, I think they're in a really good spot. Tight end, the question mark as well, but one that I think can be overcome with some of the veterans that they brought in. Probably not going to be guys that blow the stat sheet up, but they're going to be solid and do what they're asked to do within the confines of the offensive system. You look at the schedule, very tough. At Florida State, and it's a dangerous game. Tough game for sure. Florida State, you know, they've had that one circled for the last 2 years. I think they'll have a couple tricks up their sleeve too. So that's a tricky game in week 1. You go to Georgia. That is on September 27th. You have Tennessee at your house on the 3rd Saturday in October. You got LSU at your house on November 8th. Will be a huge game between another team that I think can potentially make a significant run this year. Oklahoma comes to you as well. Another game in Tuscaloosa. Noticing a trend here, a lot of their more difficult games are in the friendly confines of Bryant-Denny Stadium before they finish up in the Iron Bowl, but taking a trip across the state to play against the Auburn Tigers. I think Alabama has a big year. I'm a believer. I'm buying. I think they are a legitimate national championship contender in year number 2 for Kalen DeBoer. Quarterback. Very obvious question mark. We've been talking about quarterback competitions for weeks and weeks and weeks. Alabama might have as intriguing competition as there is. Ty Simpson, as of this moment, is the front runner, but he's got to go and secure the job in the fall. He's always had talent. He's always had athleticism. He's always been accurate on the deep ball, but now it's about belief. It's about understanding situations and distributing the ball where it needs to go, depending on what the defense dictates. But you do not want to lose sight of what Austin Mack might be able to do. Big, 6'6", 235-pound guy that can really throw the ball downfield. And then the outrageously talented true freshman Keelan Russell, who you need to keep an eye on. The longer this competition goes, the more realistic it becomes for Keelan Russell to potentially find his way on the field in meaningful moments this fall. So that's a 3-way battle right now that I think could be very intriguing as we move a little bit closer to that week 1 game against Florida State. Also a little concerned about the pass rush. Who's going to be the go-to guy? Now, I think Quay Russaw has all the ability in the world to be that guy, but now he's got to go out there and do it. He's got really good, solid pieces on the interior that should be able to help stop the run, but on obvious passing situations, who's the guy who can go get his own shot and apply pressure single-handedly?